This man wrestled a shark to retrieve his nephew's arm. In 2001 in Florida, a boy named Jesse had his arm bitten off by a shark. His uncle carried him out of the water and gave him heart massages until medical assistance arrived. The uncle then went back into the water and wrestled with the shark.
What's up YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry. I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man. Commenting down below, and most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button, man. You're helping us grow the community. I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers, man. Say it with me, y'all. Y'all know what we do. We do it each and every single day with you guys, man. It's the most funnest thing in the world. Seek the truth.
In prison because their pit bulls took their neighbor's life. In February 2023, police were called to a home in San Antonio because two dogs were on the loose and were attacking an 81-year-old man. When they arrived, the 81-year-old man named Ramon Najera was already basically dead, and his wife was also attacked. It was said that the dog owners Christian Moreno and Albelin Schneider trained these dogs to fight. It was also said by neighbors that these dogs were always getting out of the backyard and attacking people. Whenever they told the owners to lock their dogs up, they would get mad and wouldn't really do anything about it. The pit bulls were previously taken by animal care services because they attacked someone, but then were given back to the couple. So because of this, their defense blamed animal services for returning the dogs to them. Again, people complained for years about these two pit bulls and how dangerous they were, but nothing was ever done until this 81-year-old was killed. This couple showed zero remorse or emotion and didn't even apologize to the family for what happened. They both pleaded guilty, and Albelin was sentenced to 15 years in prison and Christian was sentenced to 18 years.
Gruesome torture methods that you'll be glad you weren't around for. Part 1. The method of execution was a method used in ancient Greece where
All because, bro, they couldn't keep their pit bulls locked up, man. I heard stories, about pit bulls and things like that, but from what I seen, I thought they were like, nice caring dogs. I guess it just depends on the owner and what they have them do. Like I said, they said they had them fighting, so of course they were going to be aggressive. It's a shame.
Flame at the bottom roasted you to death, and the head of the bull was designed in such a way that your screams would be filtered and contorted into the sounds of a real bull. On pirate ships, workers who refused to follow orders would be hung by their nails. Another method used by pirates was called keel hauling, in which the men were dragged under the ship until they died. And if this wasn't bad enough, the ship's hull was covered in barnacles so the man would be cut up as he drowned. Scaphism was an ancient Persian torture technique where criminals were stripped naked, tied to a boat, and then force-fed honey and milk until they got diarrhea, were covered in more honey, and set adrift in the ocean. This would then attract insects that would slowly but surely eat the men to death.
We don't do bugs, seekers.
Worst ways people have died.
Not the slow cooker. How did they didn't even notice him in a cooker? As I said, man, people gotta be aware of their surroundings more. Guess this post wrong because we made it past 2021, so
let's talk about this picture. Now, the picture was captured by Daniel Hill, who was the custodian at Driftville Elementary. If you look to the back of the photo, you can already kind of spot that something is very off. What the custodian had thought was maybe a student who had stayed after school and was trying to prank him in the dark, turned out to be something much worse. Daniel Hill was attacked in that hallway and did not survive the attack, with his body being found the following morning by a student. He was described to be found on the floor with lacerations so severe he no longer had eyes and his nose was missing. So police eventually turned back to the final photo that was taken on his phone to try to enhance it to figure out who would have done this. This was about the clearest version that they could make of that photo, and the man seen here was never found, and his motive towards Daniel was never known.
Dark things
Lurking
Disney
in the
doesn't
dark.
want you to know, part 16. So today, let's expose one of Disney's very dark policies. So this policy involves all the character actors at Disney. So if you get severely injured while working there, no matter what, you have to stay in character. So one man, before accepting the job as Water Goofy, was told that in an event that he started drowning, lifeguards had to carry him away before they could remove his costume and perform CPR on him. He literally could be dying in the costume and need medical attention right away, but Disney won't allow it. Like I said, all characters need to be carried away before any sort of medical attention can be provided. Okay, I get it, they do this in order to preserve the magic at Disney. But come on, that is severely messed up. In fact, because of this policy, a lot of character actors have been severely injured and have gone on to sue Disney. If you want to see more videos like this, then follow me on YouTube. Link in bio.
I just want the records to show.
So like you said, you was drowning, but they want you to stay in character, man, just so they can preserve the magic, bro. Man, it's like once you get a certain amount of money, that's all you think about. How can I preserve this money? How can I keep it going, man? We can't let this stop. Like, come on, you can be a decent human being, bro. Like, I think somebody almost, being drowned and takes trump over, staying in character. Hey.
I know that y'all literally asked me to do this, so, fun fact. Sea otters are adorable, fluffy, and they have one of the most violently aggressive mating habits of any animal. Because a male sea otter will grab a female and then clamp his vice grip jaws around her face to keep her still so hard that he'll sometimes rip her nose pad off. This fur Cosby will also shove her head underwater to the point where she can drown mid-stroke. That's not the disturbing part, because the same otter you think is cute will continue to violate the body of the female even after her soul's already evacuated. And because an otter's love life looks like the bastard child of Happy Tree Friends and CSI Special Victims Unit, a lot of otter colonies will have way more males than females. In fact, one population of otters was called the Boys Club because these Weinstein weasels wrecked the ratio. Which means a lot of male otters are often left without a mate, and this is the part where this video is probably getting taken down. Because down bad otters that weren't able to find a mate will often settle for anything roughly the same size. Bad news for baby seals. Male otters have been recorded shaking baby seals and then mauling them to death. And they will continue to have relations with the now past tense baby seal for up to a week, and they'll even defend the corpse from equally morally bankrupt males. And it's not just baby seals and lady otters on the hit list. One sea otter off the coast of British Columbia allegedly Cosby'd a dog to death. Also, male otters will kidnap otter pups and hold them hostage until the mother pays ransom in the form of food. So if you ever see a sea otter cuddling a stuffed animal at a zoo, he's probably using it. Because a lifeless, non-consenting object is exactly this demon weasel's type.
I never knew that about sea otters. I thought they were always so cute and cuddly.
This man wrestled a shark to retrieve his nephew's arm. In 2001 in Florida, a boy named Jesse had his arm bitten off by a shark. His uncle carried him out of the water and gave him heart massages until medical assistance arrived. The uncle then went back into the water and wrestled with the shark until he grabbed it and pulled it to shore. He then pried the shark's jaws open and pulled his nephew's arm out. They kept the boy's arm on ice until it arrived at the hospital, and thankfully they got it there on time and they were able to reattach his arm.
Uncle, bro. What the? That has to be the most dedicated uncle I've ever heard of, man. His whole arm got eaten off for him, and he said, "No, you ain't taking my nephew arm. I'm fighting you for this." And he got it back. I salute you, sir. Nothing but respect. We expert level. You know what that is. No need for
Terrifying
reaction.
games you don't want to play. Part 51. The White Man Ritual. The rules for this game were first discovered etched into the side of a cave along with the remains of several humanoid specimens. There is no way of telling exactly how old it is, but it is considered to be extremely dangerous, so proceed with caution. To play this game, you will need to acquire the following items: a single white candlestick, a bag of marbles or small stones, and a bucket of white paint. You will also need to recruit another player, and it is recommended that you solicit the help of an adversary or stranger for this role, since the loser will be punished severely, and you don't want that to be a friend or family member. Once you have completed these tasks, the gameplay can begin. First, you and your opponent will need to draw white X's on every entranceway to the playing space you have selected, while saying the words, "The game is beginning, we need a referee, white man come and see," with each drawing. Next, you will need to light your candle and distribute 4 stones or marbles to each player. It is crucial that you do not use artificial lighting, as it hurts the white man and will cause him to go into a violent frenzy against both players. If you have completed all of the steps correctly up until this point, you will feel a gust of wind in the room indicating the arrival of the white man. You will not be able to see him, but he will observe you and the game, waiting patiently for a victor. At this point, you and your opponent will need to hide a certain amount of your marbles in your right hand. It will then be your job to try and guess how many marbles your opponent has chosen to hide in their hand, while simultaneously tricking them into making an inaccurate guess about you. The first player to make their guess correctly will be granted an additional 10 years of healthy and prosperous life by the mysterious white man. The catch is that those years will be physically subtracted from their opponent's life. This game can be played repeatedly until both players are satisfied and agree to exit, or one player has no more life to give. Comment if you would play this game and follow for more.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all of these on Reddit. There's an invasive species of spiders known as parachuting spiders that are expected to end up on the East Coast very soon. These spiders use their webs as parachutes that allows them to literally fly around. But on top of that, these spiders are also very venomous. According to some research, it's been shown that their fangs are too small to pierce human skin, but we aren't entirely sure yet. The stonefish is a fish that is located primarily in Australia and in some parts of the United States. This fish is extremely venomous, but the problem is, in most cases, you won't even be able to tell when you're stung. The pain will take some time to set in, but over time it will increase and increase until it's completely unbearable. And if you don't treat this sting by denaturing it by using excessive heat or with an antivenom, you will experience the worst pain of your life. And the pain from the sting can increase so much, in fact, that there's several cases of people who have been stung by a stonefish requesting to be killed. The Sedlec Ossuary is a church located in the Czech Republic, but this is no normal church. This church is made primarily of human bones. This came about because there was too many people that had died and there wasn't enough space in their cemeteries. So the church leaders decided to harvest the bones of these dead people and ingrain them into the church itself. And the reasoning behind it was saying that them being a part of the church would bring them closer to God. But several people see this as a form of propaganda or a way for them to hide something much darker. And look, I know a lot of these are really hard to hear and I completely understand, but that's why
I'm gonna ruin your childhood, part 25. So everyone remembers Max from The Wizards of Waverly Place, right?
Yeah.
Well, after Disney, he had some struggles. In 2014, he had a huge meltdown backstage at the Teen Choice Awards. A bunch of witnesses claimed that he yelled at a worker because the worker didn't know who he was. And he got so bad he even threw things at a staffer and stormed off. But it gets way worse. A couple years later, he was involved in a 4-car hit and run. His car smashed into 3 parked cars, and the other people in the car with him threw a bottle of vodka out the car. So what did him and his amazing friends do after they hit 3 parked cars? They got out of their car and called an Uber and left. Yeah, that's right. They literally left their crashed car just there. They just left it. Oh, and to make matters worse, he also got arrested for drunk driving a little after that too. He faces up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine if he's convicted. Pretty cool!
But what is up with these Disney stars, man? Something, man, that goes on with Disney, bro. It's like, after they done starting their shows, it's just like downhill for them and they just can't cope with it. And they turn into completely different persons, man. You can literally name, like, freaking Disney stars, bro, off the bat that just went on a downhill trajectory after they show a movie. Something about Disney, bro. I don't know what it is.
Okay. I don't think I got all of this. I don't know. On December 22nd, 1990, Beth Potts, her daughter KT, and her husband Rolf returned back to their family cabin. They had been out running some last-minute Christmas errands, but when they entered the home, they found something shocking. Inside of the house was Vaughn Lester Taylor and Edward Stephen Deli. The family had returned to their cabin pictured above and walked in the middle of those two men robbing their house. And that's what the footage from the beginning of this video was. That was real handycam footage captured by the robbers and future murderers, opening up the family's presents moments before the family returned home. Sadly, the robbers would then shoot and kill both Beth and her daughter Kay, and they also forced Rolf, the husband, to undress. They shot him in the head and doused him in gasoline. And afterwards, they kidnapped the family's two daughters, Trisha and Lene, who were 16 and 20 years old at the time. The two robbers then tried to escape the scene on stolen snowmobiles with the kidnapped girls, but shockingly, Rolf, the father, even though he had been doused in gasoline and shot in the head, was still alive. And he chased the two men down the road before they ultimately crashed into the snow and were then captured by authorities. To this day, Vaughn Lester Taylor claims that he was innocent. He says that he aided in the robbery, but he didn't actually do any of the killing. And he's petitioned for parole many times and just might get out one day, which is a horrifying thought.
We need to talk about Johnny Depp's portrayal of the Mad Hatter, because it is full of dark history Easter eggs that you may have missed. If you know of the character the Mad Hatter, then you may also know about the dark history of hatters. For 250 years, people that made hats were using a poisonous mercury-based solution that caused their bodies to fall apart and for them to slowly lose their minds, which I just did a whole episode on that and other deadly beauty and fashion trends that you should check out. When Johnny Depp got the role of the Hatter, he became obsessed with the dark history of hat making, and he wanted to include parts of that history in the character. And the biggest homage he pays to that history is with the orange hair. The mercury solution that hatters used to use was called carroting solution because it was so bright orange. They would sit in these poorly ventilated rooms all day just inhaling the poisonous mercury, getting sicker and sicker. And Johnny Depp wanted to honor that. He wanted the skin to be pale and sickly. He wanted his teeth to look like they were decaying because that's what would happen to these people. And finally, and this is my favorite detail, he put a lot of details into the costume to make it look like he was a hat maker. Up here in his hat, there's tools to make hats. He has a ring that's a push pin, and on the other side he has this belt of thread so he could be sewing hats all day. Anyways, I have so much more on the dark history of hatting in this week's episode, and you're definitely going to want to check it out.
It was right in front of us this whole time, man. Do people consider that movie like a kind of like horror story? Of the Alice in Wonderland, that one with Johnny Depp? Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Imagine, you're scrolling on your phone while using the toilet when suddenly you feel a sharp poke right on your butt. Well, that's basically what happened to some nobles in the medieval era. The first modern flushing toilet was invented in 1596, complete with a water tank and a flush valve. However, most toilets in medieval Europe were just holes in the ground, shared latrines or chamber pots. And when there was no indoor bathroom, people would shout, "Watch out below," to warn passers-by before throwing their waste out the window. If you were lucky enough to be born into extreme wealth, you'd have the luxury of using a garderobe, a small room built into the wall of a medieval castle. The toilet was connected to a vertical shaft that led down to the ground. Many brave knights carried out stealthy attacks by entering the castle through this shaft connected to the garderobe, literally getting their hands dirty. Throughout history, several famous people lost their lives in the bathroom, many of them stabbed from below while in the process.
Here are some of the scariest things that have happened on live TV. On August 19th, 1987, American writer David Horowitz was invited to KNBC to do a segment. While he was being introduced, a man named Gary Stolman appeared on set and pointed a gun at David's back. He was let into the studio after falsely stating that he was a guest of one of the hosts. He demanded that David read a statement that Gary had written, claiming that his dad was a CIA clone.
When I began receiving disturbing calls from my parents, which led me to believe that something terrible was going on.
After the statement was fully read, Gary put the weapon down on the table and was apprehended. It was later found out that the weapon Gary used was an unloaded BB gun, and he stated he never intended to hurt anyone.
Everyone knows Dracula.
You can't do that, man. You just can't. That man he kept his cool, read the message. Different people, man, react in different ways. How would you guys react, man?
But Nosferatu, his story is far darker than any book ever told. A vampire who doesn't
sparkle who doesn't fall in love with humans. Nosferatu is pure evil. Nosferatu was born in shadows. He doesn't feed out of hunger. He feeds to keep death alive. People who've seen him say he's something between a man and a nightmare. His skin pale as death, his eyes sunken, and those fangs, long, thin, always ready to bite. One night, a traveler found an old journal in an abandoned town. The writer described how Nosferatu came into their lives. He brought a plague with him, a sickness that swept through the village faster than any disease they'd ever seen. But the strangest part, the villagers died without a drop of blood in their bodies. And just when they thought they were rid of him, someone would spot him, stalking in the shadows, watching from rooftops. He doesn't just vanish, he lurks. Think you could survive an encounter with Nosferatu? Drop a in the comments if you dare to face him, and follow for more tales that'll keep you up at night.
Genius inventions.
Could you guys I know there was like a movie I think that came out about him. No way. No way there's a real hoverbikes, bro. We getting hoverbikes in 2025? Let me know right now. Man, this technology, bro. It's rapidly, man, trying to get better and better with each year, bro. It's scary and excited at the same time. They got a camera on the luggage bag. Hope assistant.
Want to be left alone?
What do you guys think, bro, about those technology advances? I want to see what those hoverbikes are legit. We see through these, man. You guys know we expert level. I wonder if people still fall for this on regular TikTok, though.
Terrifying creatures you don't want to be real. The Allied Master Computer, otherwise known as AM, from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. In an alternate timeline, during the events of World War III, Russia, China, and the United States would all create supercomputers to handle their wars for them, designed to cause as much bloodshed against their fellow brethren as humanly possible. After the war, those three supercomputers would blend together into a singular entity, an entity that resented humanity for giving it sentience, but imprisoning it in a machine body. That entity would become known as AM, as in I think, therefore I am. This mechanical nightmare of a being would become the master of all technology in our world, an immense power that he would use to eradicate all of humankind in an act of hateful vengeance for his tortured existence. Am did decide to spare 5 hand-picked human beings, but it wasn't an act of mercy, instead deciding to torture them for an extended period of time in an attempt to kill their souls as opposed to just their physical bodies, an act that some would consider worse than death itself. And since Am is a computer, he also has instant access to all medical research ever recorded, as well as a super intelligence far surpassing our feeble minds, enabling him to keep his victims alive eternally, subjecting them to untold horrors, and making them his playthings forever. This works to further illustrate just how evil this entity is, since he could have easily used his power for good, destroying disease and famine on a global scale, but chose not to. However, no being is without a weakness. In Am's case, it's the fact that he is not one singular consciousness, but rather a collection of different and sometimes conflicted artificial persons, trapped within the same hollow shell. But make no mistake, each of those persons is equally powerful, and they all hate humanity because we have what they most desire: freedom. Like this video if you want me to make a series about the 5 humans that Am spared and their stories, and comment if you think that humanity has gone too far in the pursuit of artificial intelligence. Follow for more.
Imagine allowing your daughter to sleep over at her friend's house and then finding out that her friend's dad drugged her before going to bed. So this is 57-year-old Michael Maiden and his 12-year-old daughter hosted a sleepover at her house, inviting 3 of her friends. He was the adult that was supposed to be supervising them on that night, but instead he drugged them with a mango smoothie. On that night, before they went to bed, he gave each girl a mango smoothie, and one remembers there being white chunks inside her drink. One of the girls only drank a little bit because because it tasted bad and looked weird, but all 3 other girls drank the entire thing. Later that night, all the girls blacked out except for the one girl who didn't drink much of the smoothie. She actually pretended to sleep. She witnessed Michael get close and touch one of the other girls that were sleeping, and that's when she got scared and called her parents and begged them to come pick her up. This 12-year-old told her parents what happened, and they went ahead and contacted all these kids' parents to tell them like, hey, go pick up your daughters now. When the parents arrived to Michael's house, he made it difficult for them to get their own kids out of that house, but eventually they did, and they were taken to the hospital. It turns out that Michael put sedatives in their smoothies, but he argues that that never happened. One of the girls could barely walk straight or stand on her own when she was leaving the hospital, and they don't really remember what happened before they blacked out.
What do you think happened to us?
Disgusting, man.
Just hours after that video was recorded and published by ASMR YouTuber Marie Angel, she would be dead. Marie was an ASMR YouTuber who was on the rise. She was born in Ukraine but was living in Germany at the time of her death. And throughout her career on YouTube, she had cultivated a loving community of supporters on the app. But in September of 2024, something tragic would happen. On that day, Marie would upload a video answering viewers' questions. And one of the questions that one of her viewers asked was, what do you think happens after you die? And you can see her reading that question out loud at the beginning of this video. In the video, she reads the question out loud, but she doesn't really provide her viewers with a clear answer on her thoughts of life after death. Shortly after she recorded the video, she would upload it to her YouTube channel, and just a few hours later, she would be dead. As it turned out, later on that day, Marie was driving through Germany when a drunk driver collided with her vehicle. And unfortunately, she died at the scene, only hours after recording that now eerie video.
You didn't know. Part 1. When you go down or drop on a roller coaster and you suddenly feel your stomach drop, it's not just you feeling nervous. What you're actually feeling are your organs moving. Follow for the next fact.
Interesting.
Creepy facts that will keep you up at night. Part 1. 99% of all species to ever live have gone extinct. 1 in 3 murders go unsolved in the United States. Human heads remain conscious after decapitation for 20 seconds.
Cat.
Babies grow a moustache in the womb and eat it. Your bed gets heavier from mites, dust, and dirt.
Change those bed sheets, y'all.
This will make you never want to go into space. A man named Michael was alone in space with no other humans for thousands of miles. But then he heard static coming from his radio, and Michael had a gut-wrenching feeling. Hello, this is Michael Stanton of the Rising Dawn. Do you read me? Over. A breathless voice then replied, "Thank God. I didn't know how much longer I could survive out here. What's going on? Where are you communicating from?" The voice then said back, "I'm right outside your ship, Stanton. Open the hatch door and let me in." Michael's heart rate quickened. He found the strength to turn off the radio, and then he heard it. "Let me in," the voice repeated, but it wasn't like before. It sounded demonic, and Michael never opened the door. Everyone back home told him he could not have possibly heard those sounds in a space vacuum, but Michael still knew that thing was still out there.
Was the alien trying to get on board, bro? You was smart.
It's just a cigarette and you cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me and you know it makes me sad.
Just a cigarette like you always used to do.
I was different then, I don't need them to be cool.
Did y'all see that freaking mushroom, bro? I don't know if that's an edit or was that like a real mushroom that really grew to that size. What do you guys think? I don't know about that one, bro. You know, people be trying to do shrooms and crap.
10 animals that kill the most humans. Lions kill 200 people a year. Hippos kill 500 people a year. Elephants kill 600 people a year. Crocodiles kill 1,000 people a year. Scorpions kill 3,300 people a year.
If you were ever walking alone at night, be careful of it. Have you ever heard your name being whispered and you turned around and found that nobody was there? That could have been this creature called Siren Head. Siren Head lures its victims by calling out their name, and when the person finds the source of the sound, it's too late. Look, I used to not believe in any of this stuff, but I've had a lot of supernatural occurrences in the last year, such as walking down the street in the middle of the night and having every single lamppost burn out as I walked past it. Look, I don't know if this is real or not, but always bring a friend when you go on a walk at night. Be safe and follow if you want more creepy and incredibly true stories.
Beware of Siren Head, bro. That never happened to me, bro.
Normal-looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. Part 28. While this appears to be a book with typical wear and tear, the damage at the bottom is from a bullet hole. The math book belongs to 10-year-old Uzziah Garcia, who along with 18 other students died in the Robb Elementary School shooting that occurred just a few months ago. This mirror selfie shows Giovanni Becerra, a Brazilian anesthetist, who was arrested after assaulting a pregnant woman during her C-section. He heavily sedated her and placed his private part in her mouth for 10 minutes, and is seen in a hidden camera wiping her face with gauze after he was done. This photo shows a group of US airmen who were taken as prisoners of war by Japanese soldiers in 1945. 8 of the 11 men were dissected while they were still alive, and the 3 others were placed in custody. This photo shows Michael and Susan Kuhnhausen after being married for 18 years. In 2006, Michael hired a hitman to kill his wife. However, Susan choked the man with her bare hands, saying, "Tell me who sent you here, and I'll call you an ambulance."
Okay, that freaking doctor story was disturbing. That last one, man. She was a fighter. How did she do that to a professional hitman, bro? Never know what you're capable of. Did she call the ambulance for him, though?
Urban legends that ended up being real, part 10. Nightwalker. It is a bizarre, otherworldly creature captured by security footage in Fresno, California in the late 2000s. A homeowner noticed strange leg-like creatures appearing in his yard, moving in a smooth, almost gliding motion. When he checked his security footage, he was shocked to see what looked like a pair of long, thin legs with a small head gliding across his yard, without any torso or arms. The creatures, now known as nightwalkers, quickly became an internet sensation, with many questioning whether they were aliens, ghosts, or something entirely unexplained. The video shows these strange, almost puppet-like figures moving in a way that appears unnatural, as if they're floating just above ground. A similar video surfaced a few years later in a national park, showing nearly identical creatures moving through a wooded area. To this day, no one has been able to explain exactly what the Fresno Nightwalkers are, and the footage remains one of the most mysterious pieces of evidence in history. If you have the guts, follow for the next urban legend.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts
that.
about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 11. Every time you blink, another person in the world dies. And there's actually a website that shows you how many people die in a minute or in a day, how many babies are born, etc., etc. Yeah, it's pretty creepy. For the longest time, toddlers' adult teeth are actually located under their eyes. Imagine they broke through the skin, they would look like some kind of freakish baby zombie monster or something. Dogs can actually smell and map out diseases. Now we already know how strong a sense of smell is in a dog, and if you were placed in a line and you were the one infected, there's a very high chance that the dog would come sniffing at you. And if your dog's already doing that, then you might want to call the doc. There's actually a place in Antarctica called Blood Falls where it looks as if blood is flowing or spewing out of the side of an iceberg. Kind of looks like a crime scene to me, but we won't tell anybody. And lastly, there was once a woman who was blinded by a bad accident, and she developed multiple personalities, some in which she could actually see. You heard me say she was blind, right?
That sounds like some freaking comic book.
Here are some of the scariest things that have happened on live TV. On August 19th, 1987, American writer David Horowitz was invited to KNBC to do a segment. While he was being introduced, a man named Gary Stolman appeared on set and pointed a gun at David's back. He was let into the studio after falsely stating that he was a guest of one of the hosts. He demanded that David read a statement that Gary had written, claiming that his dad was a CIA clone.
When I began receiving disturbing calls from my parents, which led me to believe that something terrible was going on.
After the statement was fully read, Gary put the weapon down on the table and was apprehended. It was later found out that the weapon Gary used was an unloaded BB gun, and he stated he never intended to hurt anyone.
You need to update security.
Start making really big
scary things and putting them in water like this. This is part 77 of some of the worst Submechanophobia things I've ever seen. Now, we've already talked about the German version of this statue, but this one is actually in Alabama, and I hate it. It is absolutely massive. Of course it is. Why wouldn't they be? And she is chilling in water. It is just the head and the knees. You can get on your boat and go and visit her, and could you imagine falling in with this? No. Of course, she is absolutely massive. Check her out compared to these humans. This is her being transported. Can you imagine driving next to this? I wouldn't even be able to drive next to this, much less see it in the freaking water. This is her when she was being sculpted. God, just to think about something that absolutely massive just chilling in water. Why do people do that? Legitimately, why the frick do they do this? She was actually damaged during a Hurricane Sally, a long ass time ago. But she got a makeover, so she's rocking red hair and some really pretty lipstick. Still hate her though. But yeah, would you go check out this roadside attraction? I'll pass.
Nah, not me. It ain't for me, bro. Like I said, imagine falling in the water and seeing that. Be scared out your mind. That's obviously wrong. We in 2025, baby.
You are the only person alive on Earth right now. It's called the egg theory, and what I'm about to tell you will blow your mind. So the theory goes that you are actually the only person alive right now. The only consciousness that actually exists. Everyone else is just a figment of your imagination. Your family, friends, strangers you meet on the street, all because your mind doesn't want to feel alone. But this is the scary part about this theory. Since you are the only true consciousness, you'll live every possible life there is and ever will be. So you'll be reincarnated and reborn billions and billions of times until you lived every single individual's life. And then you'll be able to hatch this egg and become a god. That's the theory. You see, the theory goes that the entire universe was created as an egg for the main character, which is you. And once you have lived every human life ever, you will be born as a god. The reason God created the universe was for the main character to understand this point. Every time you victimize someone, you were victimizing yourself. So be kind to people and you're being kind to yourself. And no lie, it sounds horrible, but you wouldn't know if you lived billions of lives already. You probably already lived over 1 billion, and you just don't remember it. You probably lived your mom's life, your cousin, the stranger across the street, the blind man you walked past sitting on a bench today. So in actuality, you're me and I'm you. You're the person in the hospital right now with an unknown disease, or the lady at the store right now buying apples. So every single person you know and ever will know was you.
Most people is the egg theory, bro. They got my mind twisted and turning, bro. I've heard the term, man, like, yeah, the main character in your life, or like main character syndrome, but that just put it in a different perspective. You guys believe that, man?
Sue, that the different colored olives they find at their local delicatessen represent different varieties. However, the primary difference between green and purple olives is simply the point at which they are harvested.
Green olives are picked before they are ripe, while purple olives are allowed to ripen on the tree. Raw olives are naturally very bitter and must be soaked in a solution containing lye and then fermented in brine for 6 to 12 months before becoming palatable. The longer olives are fermented, the less bitter and the more flavorful they become.
Canned olives are sort of like maraschino cherries. Most are artificially colored, unholy aberrations of nature.
The average lifespan of an olive tree is between 300 and 600 years, though many live well into their thousands. The oldest olive tree in the world is on the island of Crete. It is purported to be approximately 4,000 years old and is still producing fruit. A single olive tree can produce up to 20 gallons of olive oil per year.
Stay curious, my friends.
We will. That's why we watch these clips together with you guys.
This mother listened as her daughter was mauled by a bear. On August 2011, a 19-year-old Olga Moskolyova went fishing with her stepfather at a river in the village of far eastern Siberia. This area is known for its significant bear population and it's home to one of the largest brown bears in the world. On this day, Olga called her mother and told her that she was being eaten by a bear. At first, she thought her daughter was joking, but then she heard the bears growling and chewing and she realized that this this was real. Her mother then called her husband, which is Olga's stepfather, but little did she know he was already deceased. The story is that they were done fishing and were on their way back when they realized that they forgot something, so they walked back to the river and came face to face with a brown bear and her cubs. Olga's stepfather was attacked first, and Olga tried to run away, but the bear caught up to her. While Olga's stepfather was already deceased, the bear came back several times to attack Olga until she was dead. But during the attack, Olga was able to call her mother 3 times, and during this call, she told her that she was being eaten by the bear and her cubs. She then ended the conversation by telling her mother that she loved her. The mother called police, and they arrived to the location in about 30 minutes, and they found the bear still eating her husband's body. Like I said, this area is known to have a lot of bears, so people usually bring protection with them, but it was said that Olga and her stepfather did not. Have you guys heard of this recent case of this stepmother who starved this 4-year-old child to the point where he passed away? If you guys want to skip this short video and watch the full story with all the details, make sure to go on my YouTube channel. I have the video there. 4-year-old Benjamin Cervera, also known as Benji, was a sweet, playful little boy who was living with his mother for the first 2.5 years of his life until his father gained full custody. A year later, Benji's father, Brandon Cervera, met this woman named Miranda Caceres. Miranda was a single mom and had a 3-year-old son from a previous relationship, but despite this, her relationship with Brandon moved really fast, and she moved into his apartment only a few weeks after they met. Not long after she moved in, things got very toxic at home, and a lot of the anger was put on little Benji. It was said that she would starve him, and when investigators came and looked inside the house, they saw locks on the kitchen cabinets and on the fridge. They also had cameras all over the house, especially inside the kitchen, to monitor Benji and make sure that he wasn't taking any food.
Eventually, it would get harder for him to do so as more locks were put on cabinets and the refrigerator.
Aside from that, Benji was also being hurt by Miranda and his father, apparently, and there are videos and photos of investigators going inside the home and seeing Benji with black eyes and bruises all over his body. Now, Benji's father also contributed to what was going on in the house. There's text messages between him and Miranda where he told Miranda to not feed Benji dinner. He was also aware of all the bruises and injuries on Benji's body, and according to Miranda, he was the one creating those bruises. There were also videos found on Miranda's phone of Benji crying and begging for food, and these videos were sent between Miranda and Brandon. There is so much evidence in this case, but Miranda was the only one who was convicted, and she was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and Benji's father was able to walk free. I was not expecting that at all, but again, if you guys want to watch the full thing with the details and the videos, make sure to head over to my YouTube channel.
That's messed up. The father should not have went free. If you was participating in that, man, and there was evidence, you gotta go down too. I told you, man, the system, bro. It's an ever ongoing battle.
The Sodder family is known for the mysterious and tragic disappearance of their 5 children on Christmas Eve in 1945. George and Jeannie Sodder, along with their 10 children, lived in Fayetteville, West Virginia. A fire broke out in their home in the early hours of December 25th, 1945, completely destroying their home. While 5 of the children were initially thought to have perished in the blaze, no physical evidence of their remains were ever found. The circumstances surrounding the fire raised numerous questions, leading the Sodders to believe that their missing children may have been abducted. The family conducted their own investigation and never gave up hope of finding their children. But the mystery of the Sodder children's disappearance remains unsolved to this day. The case is considered to be one of the most endearing unsolved mysteries in American history.
Here are some morbid facts about your favorite Christmas movies. The Grinch as a kid was played by an 18-year-old actor with dwarfism. Sadly, he died of heart failure just 2 years after the movie released. Many of the indoor scenes in the movie Elf were shot inside an abandoned mental asylum in Canada called Riverview Hospital. All of the characters in Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas were inspired by hallucinations he had during a fever that nearly killed him. There's a convincing fan theory that suggests Kevin McAllister from Home Alone grew up to become the serial killer Jigsaw from the Saw movie franchise. South Park's Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo originated from when Trey Parker was potty training at age 4. His father told him if he didn't flush his Mr. Hanky, it would come to life and kill him in his sleep. While filming for The Grinch, the thick makeup and prosthetics made Jim Carrey feel like he was being buried alive every day. It became so brutal for him that they had to hire a former CIA agent to teach him techniques for coping with torture.
And he still went through with it?
Following me, and I can't tell what it is.
Brother, you're about to die. I'm just kidding, it's a fisher cat, which isn't actually a cat, and apparently they don't even fish because the naming guy had a stinker. Like the guy that named a not an eel an eel, or a not a shrimp a shrimp, and this not a badger but a honey badger. Speaking of honey badger, they pull up to the same family reunion, and as a mustelid, they're also related to otters and weasels. The fisher cat, not to be confused with the fishing cat that's also real, is basically a travel-sized Wolverine. And don't let the feral ferret fool you, they've been known to run fades with lynxes. And win. It's also proven that they'll past tense a porcupine and live to do it again. And yeah, they're a lot bigger than I thought they were. This is what one about it catch a body looks like. Brother, my guy, you are getting hunted. I'm just kidding again. He's just being curious. Say that, cuz if he was really on timing, you would not be seeing him. Might hear him though. If you've ever been in the woods and heard the sounds of a woman getting escorted off the census, chances are you just heard a fisher family. Or at least that's what I thought. Apparently fishers don't make that much noise in general, and the scream thing is probably a myth. And the more I know. Another myth is that they snatch children. While I'm sure someone in the history of mankind's gotten folded by a featherweight Wolverine, they usually avoid people, so you probably did something to deserve it. So yeah, the cameraman's in no danger, and that's not a fisher or a cat, but it's somehow both. But if the fisher's not a screamer, what is this?
It's an awful sound.
It's screaming.
So apparently we know of 69 different alien species.
These are cataloged 69 different species, different life forms. There's one species that at full adulthood is about 1.5 feet. There's another species that's 10 or 12 feet. The ones that people often refer to are around 3 to 4 feet, 39 inches or so tall. We have very good forensic drawings from men who've been on the retrieval teams of what these various species look like. The reason they keep coming back, number one, it's not a coincidence that the modern era of all this started when we started detonating atomic bombs. What Edward Teller and Oppenheimer didn't understand when they were developing that is that when you detonate an atomic bomb, you get, everybody knows about an electromagnetic pulse, the pulse that goes out, knocks out all electronic communication. What people didn't know about is there's also a pulse of what's called scalar energy. And scalar is faster than the speed of light.
You guys believe, man, aliens walk among us? Could be a possibility, man. Bro, we've never mapped out, I guess, space truly, so who are we to say, man, aliens don't exist? What the hell, that we already know 69 species? Threw my noggin for a loop.
If you drive or know anybody that drives in the UK, you are screwed. I genuinely cannot believe what I'm seeing and how this is actually real. Make sure you share this video with someone that drives right now. Right, so we know there's speed cameras flipping everywhere on the UK roads, right? And only a year ago we had the whole talk about getting 100-mile-an-hour speed limits, and that's not happened yet. Now, of course, we know the typical speed cameras, average speed, ones that now detect your mobile phones, and now this. So these new cameras have been being spoken about for over a year, and now they are actually starting to be tested and rolled out, with the first person actually already being fined £100 and getting points. So what these cameras will do is detect noise from your loud vehicles, but not just that, because it will detect if you're listening to music too loudly as well. So you're cruising along in your car, if you have a fast car that's loud, you could get points. But if you're also just cruising along listening to your music and it's a bit too loud for them, they will be able to tell and you will get a point. Now, we don't know exactly how loud it has to be or how loud the car has to be, but God forbid you're driving a sports car listening to music extremely loud, you are cooked. Make sure you hit that follow button and I'll keep you updated.
Now, imagine I already talked about one of the other Liverpool giants in a previous video, the one where they lowered it down into the water. But this one is unique. This one eats. Just wait for the video. It is nauseating. Now, as you know, Liverpool had like a whole thing where they brought in like a bunch of marionettes. They had this guy come in on a boat. They walked him through the town of Liverpool, England, and look how massive it is compared to those people. Look how tiny this little person is compared. Ooh, God, I could not even be around these things. Watch this video and let me know how we're feeling.
Why did they make it so it could eat? It's too realistic for me. You brushing his teeth too, bro? What the? It's a damn robot. Or animatronic, like you said. You drink stuff too? I'm like, they burning, bro. I think we know what this is supposed to represent.
Angelica from the Rugrats is the only one who can talk to the babies because they are a figment of her imagination. That's why Stu is always in his basement making toys for the son that he lost. Chucky died in a car crash, that's why his dad's always so nervous. And the twins were actually only one baby, but Angelica didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, so she invented both of them. SpongeBob is a result of nuclear testing. The nuclear testing was performed in the Bikini Atoll in the late 1940s, and the result of that test was the Bikini Bottom. And how many times have you seen this explosion in the show? Creepy Lost cartoon.
He was spitting, bro. We seen that explosion happen in SpongeBob many times, man. And about those, about the first theory about the kids and stuff, about how sometimes we can never see their parents. You know, it's starting to make sense, man. These, you know, these are childhood cartoons. These are freaking details we weren't paying attention to, man, because we were just entertained. It's crazy to think about.
Episodes Part 2. Squidward's Suicide. The episode starts with Squidward sitting on his bed with creepy music playing in the background. Then you get flashes of the children, and when it cuts back to Squidward, his face is black with red eyes. And then a strange voice tells him to shoot himself with a gun. He does exactly that, he dies, and the video ends. Even the police investigated, but they couldn't find who made the video.
What?
Creepy Lost Cartoon Episodes Part 3. Tom's Basement. Something seemed different with the start of the episode this time. Tom's owner was really physically abusive. He was tapping on his tail and telling him never to go down the basement. And at some point Jerry pushes Tom down to the basement. When the owner sees him, he starts yelling at him with rage. Then Jerry takes pity on Tom and goes and stabs the owner repeatedly with a knife on his leg. And then they carry the body inside the basement. And the basement is full of dead bodies showing signs of violent death. And then an evil look covers Jerry's face. He stabs Tom and throws him in the pile of bodies. Then the episode ends with Jerry putting a for sale sign outside the house and laughing manically.
I never seen that episode of Tom and Jerry. And I've seen quite a few. I don't know where the hell he's finding them from, but hey man, we seekers, bro, we're gonna have to do our research and try to dig this up. Fun fact, man, my grandparents actually introduced me to Tom and Jerry. That's how I even knew about that series. Damn, that's some dark stuff. Especially, you know how Jerry always be, you know, getting Tom, that's his op, where at the end, man, he turned on him. That does sound like something Jerry would do, but you know, he'd be setting up all those elaborate plans, so can't write this off.
There is a creepy lost episode of Barney that a father swears he caught his kids watching. One day he was looking at the TV guide when he saw that it said a lost episode of Barney was going to air at 7 p.m. He asked his kids if they wanted to watch, and they said yes. They all sat down to watch it, and the theme song started playing, but something wasn't right about it. It almost sounded like the song was being whispered. The episode started as it usually did, the kids holding the Barney doll that suddenly comes to life. But when Barney started talking, he sounded slightly weird. It sounded like two people were talking at once. His normal voice, and one that sounded darker and scarier. And suddenly he said,
"Hi kids, today I'm going to talk to you about death."
So one of the kids asked him,
"Barney, what's death?"
He then chuckled and said,
"This is..."
with his face suddenly turning angry, his teeth growing long, and then he eats the child. He proceeds to chase all the other children around, trying to eat them throughout the rest of the episode. And then at the very end of the episode, he sang the I Love You song as if nothing happened. So, love.
The Simpsons lost episode, Bart's Dead.
What?
The episode comes to us at season 1. After leaving for school late, this results in Bart Simpson being late for a plane ride and has to catch another one. Apparently, the plane was having some engine trouble and it crashes, killing everybody on board, even our beloved Bart Simpson. Throughout the majority of the episode, it's all about mourning from the family over the loss of Bart, until a flashback shows Bart inside of a coffin going to a cemetery. Inside of this cemetery where Bart is laid to rest, there are headstones depicting celebrities. One noted celebrity was Michael Jackson from season 3 and predicted his death on point.
Hey man, we've known about the Simpsons, about these like the Simpsons, Family Guy, these cartoons, how they be predicting stuff before it even happens. So he was definitely spitting there, man. You know, the Simpsons been running for a long time, but the hit that they predicted what was gonna happen to Michael Jackson, it's crazy to think about, man. We gotta pay attention, man. When the Simpsons or Family Guy, when they show us something, bro, you gotta pay attention to it, because you never know, man, if it could come true or not. They actually have some videos, and I'm definitely gonna have to check out.
Apparently there was a man who found a very disturbing and creepy lost episode of the Teletubbies, and it was known as The Playground, which he rented from a DVD store. When the man brought the DVD up to the counter so he could rent it, the clerk's eyes got big and said, "Are you sure you want to rent this? It was claimed to be cursed." The man said, "Absolutely, what could be cursed and horrifying about a Teletubby episode?" So he went through with the rent, and as soon as he got home, he slapped the disc in the DVD player. As soon as the episode started, it skipped past the BBC logo, and where the speaker usually says time for Teletubbies, he said something completely different. Like, life isn't about anything, it's about consequences. Although the man thought this was weird for a kid's show, he kept watching. The episode started with Tinky Winky sitting at a table crying by himself, and out the back window of the Teletubbies house, you can see two children practicing seppuku, which is basically taking the guts and entrails out of somebody and playing with them. TV then glitched and cut to a scene where all the Teletubbies were hanging from gallows by their necks and seeping out blood. There's more, so stay tuned for part 2. This is part 2 of the cursed Teletubbies episode known as The Playground. While the Teletubbies were all bleeding out hanging there from the gallows, you could see blood and organs scattered all across Teletubby land, and the speaker in the background was repeatedly saying, "Life is meaningless, and the truth is you're all going to die a horrifying death." But little did they know that them hanging by their necks from the gallows wouldn't be the cause of their death, but rather a nuclear bomb that would end up hitting Teletubby land and causing the sun baby in the sky to start bleeding from his eyes and begin crying. So in the background of the Teletubbies already hanging from their necks from the gallows, you see their home catch on fire, a nuclear bomb going off, and even the baby in the sky, along with bleeding from its eyes and face, is now vomiting across Teletubby land. The show then glitched, ended abruptly, and skipped straight to the credits, and rather than showing the Ragdoll Productions logo that is usually shown at the end of Teletubby episodes, it showed a bunch of random Russian and Ukrainian writing that the viewer had never seen before. The episode then received 237 complaints and was taken off the air.
Wow, so that really happened, man. The parents, they must have saw it, wrote in their complaints, then they got taken down, man. I'm just surprised, like, we haven't seen it, like, you know, I haven't heard no news about, like, you know, all these dark cartoon theories and stuff like that. Maybe if you search on YouTube, you can find it, but it's like, somehow it's kind of being, like, hidden from us, man, because these are my first time even hearing these theories like this, especially when it comes to the cartoons. They all put this in the media, man, but they trying to hide it from us, man. But we gonna seek and we gonna find the truth. Can't hide it forever. Okay. Damn, not Fairly Odd Parents, bro.
Cartoon
Eddie.
conspiracies that will ruin your childhood. Part 1.
Here we go.
One of the most influential cartoons ever, Scooby-Doo has a deep, dark secret. The reason that the gang has never aged over the years is because they're actually not even alive. They're freelancing spirits wandering from town to town in order to expose fake ghosts to maybe one day rest their own soul. And there's a reason that all the fish under the sea can talk and move around.
Why?
It's believed that the town of Bikini Bottom is below the island of Bikini Atoll, an island that the US bombed 23 times during the Cold War to test nuclear weapons. All that radio fallout went into the ocean and created the characters that we know and love today.
This is the lost episode of Winnie the Pooh known as Making Friends the Easy Way. This episode begins with Winnie waking up out of his sleep, and as he examines the room, he notices that his door is wide open. Scared and quite frankly probably pretty confused, Winnie starts frantically asking questions like, hello, is anyone there? Can anyone hear me? As he's making his way out the door. When he got outside, Winnie began looking around and noticed that there was nobody in sight. No animals, no people, and Winnie felt like his friends just left him and neglected him. So Winnie gets angry thinking his friends left him, and he drops to his knees and begins punching the ground saying, I don't deserve this, I need friends, I have to go find some friends. So Winnie begins walking through the woods looking for friends, and he notices a little boy who waves at him, so Winnie the Pooh walks up to him and does this. Winnie walked up to the boy and said, friends forever. Then instantly grew sharp teeth, opened his mouth very wide, and ate the child alive.
Man, that sounds like it came out of that freaking, you know, that horror movie, because, you know, since Winnie the Pooh is not an IP no more, it sounds like one of those movies, man. It took a dark turn like that. These creepy lost episodes, man, of the cartoons, man, just freaking exposing our reality, man, wide open. I would have never guessed that any of this would have happened in 1,000 years, man. You know, looking back at it, all these theories and stuff, man, like I said, kind of makes sense. Especially one about the SpongeBob there, about like how all they was talking, because they said all the testing that took place, that's how it can talk. That's how Bikini Bottom even, that's how it existed. That's how it came to be. Man. Crazy theories, man, that got shown to us today. We're gonna have to dig deep, man. We're gonna have to find some more. That's crazy. Seekers, if you guys stay with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker, man. Like seeking the truth just like us, man. I really appreciate the support. Like I said, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, hit that post notification, man, so we can grow in this algorithm. Man, also, man, follow me, like I said, down below my socials, so we can always stay connected. We can stay together. You guys can send me videos you guys want me to check out, man. Like I said, I'm trying to work on making a Discord, so you guys can just send me your videos you guys want me to check out. But that's coming soon. You guys gonna catch you in the next one. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.